Inside Santa Clara, sometimes the loudest message is the one nobody says into a microphone. Today begins with Ji'Ayir Brown, and a contract decision that might seem minor, but could shape the future of this secondary. Then we've got a quiet move that could take a useful piece away from a division rival. Brock Purdy shows up in a different way. More voice, more authority, more command with Shanahan. And Osa Odighizuwa is talking like a man who just got unlocked. Subscribe right now and let's get into it. The Ji'Ayir Brown situation feels like one of those conversations happening behind closed doors, in that part of the calendar where the front office weighs price, trust, and risk before anything becomes public. Because when you really look at what the 49ers did, and even more importantly, what they decided not to do, the message starts to reveal itself. They changed the cornerback room. They brought in new bodies. They had no issue shaking up that part of the secondary. But safety? Almost nothing. And in Santa Clara, that kind of silence says plenty. Brown is heading into the final year of his contract in a much more interesting position than a lot of people realize. Through his first 3 seasons, he always had someone pushing him, competing with him, forcing the team to look at different combinations. Now it feels different. The job next to Malik Mustafa looks like it is sitting right there for him to grab, without some major signing breathing down his neck. Jason Pinnock is no longer in the picture. Marquis Siegel is behind him after losing ground last season, and the draft came and went with multiple chances to attack the position. The Niners passed. That does not feel like giving up on him. That feels like a calculated bet. And that is where the behind-the-scenes part gets risky. If Brown plays well without an extension, the price moves into a different room. He is no longer only negotiating with San Francisco. He starts hearing from the market. A young starting safety with improving tape and a defense that values intelligence? Somebody is absolutely going to try to push that number up. And if he plays poorly, the franchise probably looks ahead and finds another answer anyway. So waiting only feels safe on the surface. Underneath, it could become the kind of delay that turns an affordable internal solution into an avoidable goodbye. The numbers help explain it. Earlier, a 3-year, $13 million projection, around $4.3 million per year, felt reasonable. Then deals like Jalen Hawkins at 2 years and $10 million came in, and Jaquan Brisker at 1 year and $5.5 million. Brown probably does not clear that today unless he has a breakout season. So why not test an extension around $4.6 million per year, give the player security, and keep a starter through his physical prime? To me, that is the kind of move a grown-up contender makes before the price catches fire. It is not flashy. It is smart roster maintenance. It is understanding that not every important piece walks in with a spotlight on him. Sometimes he is already in the building, waiting for the franchise to admit it believes in him. Now the whole conversation shifts. We go from Brown's quiet extension question to one of those possibilities that may look small on paper, but inside the NFC West, it has real competitive venom. Jadeveon Clowney knows Seattle. He knows Mike McDonald from their Baltimore days. He wore that Seahawks jersey back in 2019, and he understands the kind of defense they want to build. So if his name starts floating around as a possible target up there, San Francisco at least needs to look through the window and ask, why let a rival fix a problem if that same player could help fix one of ours? And this is not some off-season fantasy built just to hype up a headline. This is connected to a real 49ers problem: quarterback pressure. The defense finished last season with only 20 sacks, the worst mark in the league. They were near the bottom in pressures and tied at the bottom in quarterback hits. That does not match the identity this fan base knows. It does not match a defense that wants to put fear into people. It does not match a team that walks into January expecting opponents to feel the weight of the red and gold on third down. Nick Bosa coming back from an ACL injury changes a lot, of course. Michael Williams is also part of that pass rush rebuild, even if his recovery carries more uncertainty. Romello Height brings pure speed for obvious passing downs. But roster work behind the scenes is not just about staring at the top of the depth chart. It is about asking who holds the rotation together when the game gets tight. Who can give you 15 or 20 snaps and still bother the tackle? Who keeps Bosa from being pushed to the physical edge of the season? That is why Ben Arthur from Fox Sports connecting Clowney to San Francisco is worth paying attention to. Clowney is not the same former first overall pick who was once expected to destroy every down. That chapter has passed. But a 33-year-old veteran, a 3-time Pro Bowler, with at least 8.5 sacks in 2 of the last 3 seasons, can still bring value if the role is right. Rotation, insurance, controlled energy, physical presence without asking him to carry the entire defense. And there is also the part every fan understands immediately. Keeping that piece away from Seattle would make the move even sweeter. Not because Clowney by himself changes a whole season, but because contenders win in the margins. They win with anticipation. They win by taking away options before rivals can use them. If the price is low and the role is honest, John Lynch should make that call before the Seahawks turn theirs into a bigger story. And now we get to something that, to me, separates people who only stare at stats from people who understand how a franchise grows from the inside. Brock Purdy is no longer the kid picked last, just trying to prove he belongs. That story is finished. 3 playoff trips, 2 NFC championship games, and a Super Bowl appearance changed the temperature of any conversation. But the strongest detail right now is not just the resume, it is the way he talks with Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Juszczyk told the Rich Eisen show that there is a direct line between Purdy and Shanahan after almost every drive. The offense comes off the field, and those two are right there, breaking down what happened, what the defense showed, and what needs to change on the next series. That may sound simple from the outside, but inside an operation like the 49ers, that is gold. Shanahan does not give that kind of space to just anybody. He demands precision, vision, and mental toughness. So if Purdy is stepping into that exchange with more confidence, even pushing back, defending his own read, standing on what he saw, then this offense is truly growing up. And I am going to say this as a fan who is tired of lazy narratives. Calling Purdy a system quarterback is old. It has become way too comfortable for people who do not want to admit this guy processes the game at a high speed. Juszczyk pointed directly to that. Purdy's ability to read post-snap, understand how the defense moves, keep his eyes downfield, and still create when the play breaks. That part bothers people because it breaks the easy label. A system quarterback does not challenge Shanahan in those moments. A quarterback being hidden by the roster does not grow into that kind of authority inside his own building. The behind-the-scenes signal here says something else too. Shanahan needs this version of Brock. A brilliant coach can draw the paths, but when the defense changes the picture in the middle of the play, the guy with the ball has to trust what he sees. And Purdy, entering year 5, looks less and less like just an executor and more like a true partner in the process. That is not conflict. That is maturity. I want the Niners read in the comments. Do you think Purdy already deserves to be treated like an elite operational quarterback, the kind of guy who does not just run the offense, but helps drive its identity? Because I am seeing a strong signal here. It is not just arm talent, it is not just scheme, it is trust being built in the space between one drive and the next. And maybe the most revealing quote of the day comes from Osa Odighizuwa, because it does not sound like a polished introductory line. It sounds like a player saying, almost without meaning to, that he is arriving in Santa Clara with a feeling of freedom. When he told Richard Sherman that it feels like some handcuffs are being taken off, I stopped right there. Because defensive line play is not just size, weight, and explosion. It is freedom inside the plan. It is being able to attack without becoming predictable. It is the coordinator understanding the material he has in his hands. And the 49ers badly needed that inside. Last season was rough there. Dead last in the NFL in sacks, only 20 total, 29th in pressures, tied for last in quarterback hits, and only 2 sacks from defensive tackles. For a franchise that built so much of its identity on a dominant front four, that hurts. It really hurts. Because when the middle of the line does not threaten, the opposing quarterback breathes. And when he breathes, even a great edge rusher can start to look way too alone. Osa brings real production. He had 17 sacks in 5 years with the Dallas Cowboys, 216 combined tackles, 34 tackles for loss, 81 quarterback hits, and 2 forced fumbles in 84 games. Just last season, he had 3.5 sacks, more than all of the Niners' defensive tackles combined. That is not some hidden stat. That is a direct answer to an open wound. But what excites me is less the spreadsheet and more the fit. He talked about a defense with variation, a defense that does not force a player to do the same thing snap after snap, and that line hits the nerve of modern football. If you are predictable, you are attackable. If the offense knows where you will be, how you will align, what kind of job you will repeat, talent becomes a target. Osa seems to see the 49ers as a chance to put more on tape, to attack in different ways, to be more than a boxed-in piece. With Nick Bosa and Michael Williams pulling attention off the edges, Odighizuwa could be that exact interior problem that ruins protection, pushes the pocket, and turns pressure into panic. He said he still has not scratched the surface of the clay he is. Well then, Santa Clara needs to shape that fast, because if the middle of this line comes back to life, the whole defense changes volume. At the end of the day, all four stories point to the same thing. The 49ers are in a phase where small details can become huge differences. Brown is the kind of extension that can prevent regret. Clowney would be a market move with one eye on the roster and one eye on a rival. Purdy is gaining voice where real quarterbacks have to gain voice. And Osa sounds like someone ready to explode in a scheme that may finally free his hands. Santa Clara is not just collecting names, it is testing trust, cost, command, and impact. If you are riding this race with us, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and come back for the next video.